City, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Just a reminder that rule I gave you during your selection about time after the five properties. If I'm pushing too hard and I'm going to break this new time, I'll signal you if I'm breaking time. Good time, you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Okay, stay.
First pass.
No. Thank you. So it's my understanding you did this diagram of the crime scene, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me, please, what this is?
This over here?
Yes.
That's computer table.
Okay, it's got a flat surface on the top.
Yes.
Can you tell me, please, what this is?
This over here?
Yes, sir.
Like a entertainment center.
It's got a flat top.
Yes.
And can you tell me what this is, please?
This over here?
Yes, sir.
That is a dresser.
Flat top.
Yes.
So if somebody wanted to pick something off the floor so that no one would step on it, all those surfaces were available to put it down?
I don't know how much space was on there or what size you're talking about.
Enough space for a knife?
I'd have to look at the pictures. I don't know.
You really need to look at the pictures to know whether a knife could be put on the tabletops that you just pointed at?
If the tabletops look like this in a diagram that has absolutely nothing on them, yes. I need to see photographs to see what's on them. Right?
Okay. And how did the knife get to the kitchen, do you know?
It was brought here, but I don't know why.
Do you think that's relevant?
Objection. Irrelevant questions.
I'll rephrase. In your investigation of what is found where, do you think the location of the murder weapon is relevant?
The location would be how it got there. It's not relevant to my part of the investigation.
Let me show you what's been moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 25. That's blood splatter, yes?
It's a form of blood splatter, yes.
It's blood splatter, yes?
It's a form of blood splatter.
Is my question incorrect, or do you just not want to answer it the way it's phrased?
Objection has to be answered.
Oh, really? I have that. I have answered your question.
I understand that you don't have a sign in this, correct? You don't care what the outcome is, correct?
That's correct.
So if I ask you if this is blood splatter, and I ask for a yes or no answer, it is blood splatter, is it not?
It's a type of blood spatter, yes.
And you have an expertise in blood splatter, correct?
It's spatter, and I'm not being an expert in that.
Did you take a 1,000 hours of forensics?
Yes, I did.
And was your last seminar on blood spatter?
Yes, it was.
So you know something about blood spatter, correct?
Yes, I do.
In your not expert but substantially educated opinion, with that much spatter, would the person inflicting those wounds get blood on them?
In this case, if they did, there would be minimal.
So the walls are covered in blood, and the floor is covered in blood, but the person who's stabbing is going to be clean. Is that your testimony?
The way you're putting it, it's not really how that gets on there like that. No.
Well, educate me. How do you get on there?
That's like passive, so if something is covered with blood, it would have to be like projected towards that area. It's not from like a beating where it would actually fly through the air and then land on other things. So like a right hand or something, if it's close to a wall, if that hand is moving and it's flicking that blood, then that's how that would get there.
So it's your testimony that spatter is unidirectional.
That in particular is most likely, yes.
So if there were 7 wounds inflicted, all the blood is just going to fly in one direction?
Did you say 7?
Yes.
Well, in this case, I don't believe that there were 7 wounds. This is coming off of an object.
Was the object pressing against this wall?
No, it wasn't.
So the blood made it from the bleeding object to the wall, correct?
Yes.
Were these wounds, of which there were 7, were they inflicted by a male or a female?
You don't.
I don't know.
No, I said you, or meaning, I don't know. The person wouldn't know if a man or a woman is everyone.
Okay, with the bend in the tip of the knife, would your expertise and experience, training and experience, tell you that that required a good amount of force?
I do have to test to see how strong the weight is. I don't know what kind of force that would take to make that.
Give me your best answer based upon your tremendous training and experience and the hundreds of crime scenes that you have dealt with.
I have no training on the strength of steel.
You have no interest in the outcome of this case?
It doesn't bother me one way or another what the outcome is.
How do you handle a murder weapon in your training and experience?
As a crime scene investigator, the question is,
You put on gloves?
yes,
Do you put it in a neutral container that contains nothing else?
yes,
So would it bother you to know that this knife was removed from the crime scene and barehandedly and put in the kitchen?
it's not an ideal way to move a weapon, no.
And you don't wonder why?
Sure, you wonder why, but you have no control over it.
You photographed Mr. Guy Hand.
Yes, I
Is it of interest to you that he washed his hands before you got the opportunity to photograph him?
will. It's not of interest to me, no.
Is it relevant?
Objection calls for legal exclusion.
It's the same.
Do you feel that a person washing their hand before you get to photograph it tampers with the evidence?
Objection calls for legal exclusion.
So ruled.
It could eradicate some of the evidence.
My question was, do you feel it is a tampering?
Objection calls for legal exclusion.
So ruled.
My definition of tampering would be something like an intent to get to mean something. That's my opinion.
So your understanding that Mr. Hand was wearing that sweatshirt throughout the activities of that evening?
I don't know if that's when you would learn that too.
Would it be relevant to you and your investigation to learn that that was given to him immediately prior to your photographing him?
It wouldn't be relevant to my investigation. They're just documenting things as they start. Yeah.
Would it make you wonder if something is being covered up?
It would, yes.
Do you feel you thoroughly photographed Mr. Hand and his upper body by having him lift the front and lift the back of that sweatshirt?
Well, as stated earlier, whenever you see something relevant, we'll take additional photographs.
How do you know something's relevant or not if you can't see it if it's under a sweatshirt?
Because I saw it. I had it lifted up.
Did you have him remove the sweatshirt?
I don't believe it was removed, but enough skin was exposed to see what was under it.
How much skin was exposed?
I didn't measure it. I don't know.
Did you see his shoulders?
Yes.
But there are no photographs of his shoulders.
Because there was nothing relevant in the shoulder.
What was relevant about the belly?
There was blood on it.
What was relevant about the back?
Nothing.
But you photographed the back, and here's the picture. So, are you only part-time interested in relevant, and other times not? Or does it depend on the question I ask you?
Objection argument.
It's the same.
If there was no relevance to the picture of his back, why did you take it?
Because there was an overall photograph.
If it was an overall photograph, why don't you have an overall photograph of his shoulders?
It was more difficult to take pictures of that, and I wasn't going to have to remove the shirt to take pictures of something that was completely irrelevant.
Did you happen to notice the lock on the glass doors?
Yes, I did.
Describe it, please.
There's lock.
Every lock on the glass door.
There was a lock, by the handle and a lock, like a sliding type lock on the door frame.
And the sliding type lock on the door frame can only be undone from the inside, correct?
That's correct.
Did you dust the pink telephone for fingerprints?
No,
Because it wasn't relevant?
partially, yeah.
Did you swab the pink telephone for DNA?
No,
Because?
because it wasn't requested and it wouldn't be very relevant.
It wouldn't be relevant to find out who moved that telephone to the patio?
Not for my investigation, no.
Whose investigation would it be relevant for?
Well, that would be the detective who would want to know who moved the cell phone and whose the cell phone was.
But I understood you take photographs of the things that the detective assigns and those things that you find relevant as well, correct?
Photographs, yes.
And there's a blood trail leading to that telephone, correct?
No, not a trail.
Wow. Is there a drop of blood from the door to the telephone?
Yes, there's a drop.
And is there a drop of blood between that drop of blood and the telephone?
There's a second drop of blood, but
So-
not near the telephone, no.
So there is a trail of blood leading to the telephone, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
There are two blood drops that are between each other near the cell phone. I don't know what the origin of the trail that you're trying to say. It was a trail from.
Are you nervous?
Objection argumentative.
This is thing. Move on.
So, if the phone was a relevant piece of evidence, you didn't think finding out how it got there was relevant?
No, I did not.
Did you collect the actual clothing that Guy had was wearing that night?
No, we didn't.
And you determined that he was not injured because you decided those were creases and not cuts, correct?
Well, I didn't make the decision that they were creases. I saw that they were creases.
What do you base your testimony today on as to whether or not this man's hands had cuts on them?
But the fact that I was at the scene and I did not see cuts on them.
And your testimony that these are creases were based upon what training?
It was, anybody could have seen, when you get cut, you have blood in the cut. There was no blood in that area. It was just on a perimeter, which was dry because it was from being on the hand.
How about when you get cut and then you wash your hands off?
What's the rest of the question? What do you mean, how about?
Wouldn't it look exactly the way Mr. Hand's hand looked when you have a cut and then you're allowed to wash your hands?
It would look about the same.
Thank you so much.
Redirect.
Yes, Judge. Mr. Zelinsky, counsel showed you, well, we see photographs of the location of the knife itself in the communication, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Okay. Did you have any trouble locating that knife?
No, it was the first thing you see when you come into the kitchen.
Was it covered in anything, hidden in any way?
No, it wasn't.
Counsel asked you several questions. I want to give you an opportunity to follow up. I think there was a back and forth about the definition of spatter and splatter. So can you just explain to the jury why you were sort of correcting counsel using the term blood spatter?
Well, there is no splatter. That's more like if you're cooking or something. In fact, the correct term is spatter. But there's different types of spatter.
Explain that to us.
Well, there's, you have cast off spatter, which is if something has blood on it, and there's lotion that will come off of that object, and it will impact something. And there's impact spatter, which is if something is bloody, and force gets applied to it, that'll break up the blood into many droplets and spread out in different directions, and then impact something else.
Okay, so cast off, my hand is covered in blood and it goes like that, and sort of slings that blood. Is that what you're talking about?
Right,
Cast
it was
off?
slaying in the direction which that object was going.
And I believe counsel asked you, wouldn't the person doing the stabbing be covered in blood? That was his question.
That was the question.
Okay, well, and you said no. Tell us why.
Well, speaking specifically about this case.
Sure, absolutely.
There was one injury that was severe enough to cause a lot, or two injuries that were very severe to cause a lot of blood. One being the one on the chest, which was covered by the shirt. And so once that injury occurred in the shirt, all the blood is just going to get saturated on the shirt. It doesn't, the actual act of the knife going in is not going to cause an explosion of blood, so to speak. It's going to create a hole, and then the shirt is going to soak all that up. He had an injury on his hand, which was a slice, which, again, that's not something that's going to cause blood to fly out. It's just going to create blood. So most of the blood that you see on the floor, especially, and some on the walls, is from mainly the hand bleeding and had a substantial amount of blood coming off it. There was acid falling onto the floor, and also as he's most likely retreating down the hallway, as he's near the wall, it's hard to say what he's doing, but if his hands are moving up and down, it's going to fling over in the direction of the wall. Nothing really in this case would indicate there's like a bleeding where there's actual spatter that's typically smaller droplets that are on the walls or anything like that. So that's what I was getting at.
Okay. So in a case where you sort of have blood and there's a slapping or a beating, and I guess we can imagine like a pool with a ball or something and water's flying up. Is that what you're talking about?
It's similar to that, yes.
Okay. And so based on the injuries that you saw in your training experience when counsel asked you the question, you can't say that the person doing the stabbing would necessarily have a lot of blood on them or blood on them at all.
Right, there would just be one force, and that would create the hole, and then, that's another bleeding going on.
They might have a little bit of blood, but you can't say.
Right.
And I think we saw, to show the picture again, I think you told us that the type of spatter that you saw on B was a cast-off spatter.
It appeared to be that was most likely what that was from.
When counsel asked you about Guy Hand, did you observe anything when he lifted up his shirt that led you to believe that he needed to remove his shirt, that there was further blood on the upper part of his chest?
No.
Counsel asked you about the pink telephone. Even though you didn't swab that phone for DNA or dust or fingerprints, did you, in the presence of Detective Oliver, package that phone so that it could be tested later if deemed relevant?
Yes.
With respect to the dining room outside of the kitchen, did you observe any other blood droplets or blood-like stains in that dining room or the area that was leading out to the patio?
No, it was just in the kitchen area, the hallway area, the bedroom, and then away by the patio, and then in on the patio.
Did you observe any blood saturation or any blood on Guy Hand's shirts or shorts?
No.
Counsel asked you why didn't you collect those items. If you had seen any of that, would you have collected it?
I would have discussed with the detective if we found it relevant to collect that.
And finally, I believe counsel asked you about the creases on the hands of Guy Hand. And you said that based on your training experience, having seen slash wounds or sharp injury wounds, that this appeared to be different to you than what you have seen in a type of stabbing or slashing, correct?
Yes.
And if you could just again describe for us why this looks different to you.
Well, first, you have to realize we're looking at a photograph. I was there, I actually saw it in person, so I can actually, there's movement, there's more depth than you can see. But going on this photograph, that's all we have here. You got these, the perimeters over here. You can kind of see on the top, it's very heavily coated. There's not much on the bottom part. And then there's literally just about nothing in the center. So if you get slashed, this is where the blood's going to be in the center, because you have a heartbeat and you're going to continuously bleed. There's absolutely nothing in the center. All there is dry blood on the top part. And if you actually folded that crease in, that top part with the large amount of blood would just connect with the lower amount.
Okay, and did that appear different to you than this one?
Right, so now in this one, you see the center is just very dark, because that's where the blood was, and it just dried up and it stayed there, because there was no heartbeat, so it can continue to bleed out, but it's still, that's the same thing where it's dark in the center, because that's where the cut was.
So with respect to Mr. Barry's hand, you saw clear injuries of slashing wounds.
So you can move that up one second,
Sure.
sorry, and pull it down a little bit more this way, the other direction. I'm sorry. So over here, if you zoom in on that a little bit more.
Sure.
Not too much, but a little bit. So that's almost similar to the injury that you saw in the other photograph.
I mean, to a smaller extent.
And then you made that on
The
that.
creases in the knuckles, do they appear to be
Right.
consistent with folds?
Right, it's white in the center, and it's got the demarcation line on both sides.
And again, for the record, we were looking at pictures of Guy hands, it's 85A through F, and then pictures of Mr. Barry's hands at states 47. That's all I have, Judge.
You guys sit down.
Thank you.
Are you ready to call us next week?
Yes, at this time, the statement call Officer Aaron McMullen.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you please take a moment and introduce yourself to the jury and spell your full name for the record?
Police Officer Aaron McMullen. First name is Aaron, A-A-R-O-N, and last is McMullen, M-C-M-U-L-L-E-N.
And Officer McMullen, we see you're dressed in uniform. Can you tell us what department you work for?
Montgomery County Police Department,
And where is that at?
in Maryland.
In Maryland, is that like outside of Baltimore? Or?
Right outside of D.C.
Okay. How long have you been an officer with that department?
Just over 4 years.
Okay. What is your, I guess, current duty and responsibility with your department?
Child Patrol Officer.
Did there come a point where you were requested to assist an agency in Palm Beach County with the investigation of a case and asked to perform a welfare check or stop by and check on an individual that was in Silver Springs, Maryland?
Yes, sir, respond.
Okay. Was that on or about November the 18th of 2016?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us how you proceeded, who was with you, and what you did?
Myself and my partner, Officer Barahona, responded to the location. We knocked on the door. Initially, we were there to try to locate the vehicle. The vehicle was parked in front of the residence.
What vehicle were you looking for?
Toyota Corolla.
Toyota Corolla, okay. And do you recall the license plate of the Corolla that you were looking for?
I don't have my reading notes.
If you had your written notes or your written narrative in front of you, would you refresh your recollection as to that, the license plate of that Toyota?
Yes.
Just approaching with his narrative notes. Do not read from your notes, just go ahead and take a look, review that, and if when you recall the license plate number, just let me know.
It's a Florida registration 642 RRC.
Okay. Where did you locate that white Toyota Corolla?
In front of the address, it's 11922 Andrews Court.
Okay. So what did you do at that point?
I knocked on the door and made contact with the resident there. He advised that it was his cousin's car and that she was outside the residence.
Okay. At the time that you approached the residence and you met with the individual, you and your partner, Officer Barahona, were you equipped with body-worn cameras?
Yes.
And did they audio and video what was happening as it was happening?
Yes.
No objection.
This is the time the state will move into evidence without objection, states 129.
129 amendments without objection.
All right, before I play a portion of the video here, who is this gentleman you see right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So are we seeing your body camera or your partner, Officer Barahona's?
Officer Barahona is body camera.
Do you recognize just generally the scene here? Is this the Andrews Court address as you approached to speak with the individual on or about November the 18th, 2016?
Yes.
You have the lights for the presentation?
Mark, I appreciate it. Hi, Melanie.
We got a confirmation that you're okay. There's another some people concerned about you. This work or something. So, you good? Okay. All right.
Okay.
Just want to check.
So we'll come back and knock on your door, Mark, and give you all the information. You have any questions for us, Melanie?
I'm just wondering, when should I go in for the questioning?
Yeah, we haven't been told anything. Like I said, they just wanted us to talk to you about, make sure physically and emotionally you were fine is all. Okay? You have any other questions for us? What's going on, Melanie? Okay. What are you scared about? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, like I said, we'll be right back. If you have any further questions for us, like I said, we'll be back to knock on the door. If anything comes up in between that time, please don't hesitate to ask us. Or, let us know what's going on. Okay?
And does that depict the interaction that you had with this defendant, Melanie Eam, that day?
Yes.
The tone that you used, was that the conversational tone that you had with her?
Yes.
And we heard her ask a question. Did she ask, where should I go for the questioning?
Yes.
Did you have any further information? Did you have any further instructions at that point, or were you just tasked with making sure she was at the location?
Just making sure she's at the location.
Okay. What did you do with that information once you had located this defendant at that residence?
I made several notifications. I notified the supervisor with what's going on, as well as the detective that I spoke to on the phone from Palm Beach County
Okay.
Sheriff's Office.
Okay. And were you tasked with interviewing her at any point, or was that your duty and responsibility at that point?
No interviews.
Okay. I want to ask you now, did you, as part of your assignment in this case, did you make contact with that vehicle? I believe it's the Toyota Camry in the parking lot of that apartment.
Yes.
And what did you do with respect to that vehicle?
I was told back to.
Yes, I want you to be here. I didn't realize she didn't realize that she was left. I didn't tell her yet to just try to get here quickly.
I'm sorry, it was towed back to,
The 4th District Police Station.
Okay.
Sorry.
and is that the department that you work for?
Yes.
During the tow of that vehicle, did you, again, have your body-worn camera activated, and did you document what was happening?
Yes.
Was that to ensure that nobody tampered with the car or anything like that?
Yes.
Did anybody go in the car, you're present? Did you guys open the doors, go inside, anything like that?
No.
Run it back again and have the lights, please. This video that we see here that's in evidence states 129. Is this your camera or Officer Barrahona's camera, or do you know yet?
I can't tell you.
Okay. But do you recognize this as the scene from the Andrews Court address and the tow of the vehicle?
Yes.
Is this the vehicle here, the white vehicle?
Yeah.
McMullen. I'm all over, man. I'm usually pretty. I do a lot of traffic stops. I'm all over. So been in this district for how long? About a year now. So I work during daytime, so we're more visible than other times. So. I've been working here, including the academy, like 2 years. Yeah, I'm 28, so I love this. Yeah. Where do you go to school? It's all PG. Yeah, little stuff goes on, man. Yeah. Yeah, but I went to school with PG, so that's right. Yeah.
So did you work in PG?
I used to work. I used to work in corrections before I came here. So that was like just an area, but that was it. I used to do plumbing work. I did like homework in this area before when I was in college, like off and on, and then like summers home from school. So it was just something to do while I was in school. You know, it was little summer jobs or whatever. I learned a lot there. So. Just like an apprentice, just helping out, like do the basic like sinks, toilets. I mean, I can like go and like fix major stuff, but I'm like just upon like putting together toilets, I can do all that stuff. Yeah, like different towers, we did like all 3 towers, like every.
Okay. We see the car being loaded onto the truck. Does it proceed at that point right to the 4th District?
Yes.
And are you involved in the search, the documentation of any evidence from that vehicle?
No.
Once you leave the scene, do you follow the car back to the station?
No.
Does this conclude your involvement in this case other than your testimony?
Yes.
Nothing further, Judge.
Crossing that.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Usually down just for this.
Yes, sir.
It's cold up there.
A little bit colder than here.
Nobody opened the car door at any time?
No.
Explain something to me. Once a car is in park, there's a stick in the gears. Isn't that what being in park is?
Could you ask the question?
Once a car is put in park, not reverse, not drive, but park, there's a stick in the gears to stop the car from rolling, correct?
So yes,
Then how did this car roll freely if somebody hadn't put it in neutral?
the tow truck driver winched it onto the tow truck.
I beg your pardon?
They use a winch to
Right,
drive the
but it
car.
rolled first. We watched it rolling down the street towards the tow truck.
I did not see it roll.
Okay. What's the police code for a welfare check?
Yes, and the call type.
Sure.
Just that check the welfare.
Okay. And what's it mean, a welfare check?
I'm just going to check and make sure an individual's okay, like they're mentally, physically okay.
Okay. And when she answered you in response to your question, I'm scared, did you find out if she was afraid of someone in the residence?
No,
Did you find out if she was afraid of someone in Florida?
no,
Did you find out if somebody was standing right inside the doorway with a gun pointed at her head?
no.
So why do you call it a welfare check if you were going to ignore her answer? I'll withdraw the question. Thank you.
Redirect.
Briefly, Officer McMullen, were you tasked with investigating anything beyond the location of this individual?
No,
Did you see any indication that there was anybody standing there threatening or anything like that?
no,
The individual that we saw standing, the gentleman, was he polite and courteous to you at all times?
yes,
And was anybody anything but polite and courteous to you at all times?
no,
Did you do anything, or did Officer Barcone do anything to frighten anybody that we saw in a video?
no.
No further questions.
You may step down, officer. Thank you. Get ready to call the next witness.
CSI Lashon Perkins.
Do you solemnly swear from the evidence you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Good morning, Ms. Perkins.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am well.
Good. Just take a moment and introduce yourself to the jury. Spell your full name for the record.
My full name is Lashon Lorraine Perkins. First name is spelled L-A-S as in Sam, H-O-N. Last name Perkins, P as in Paul, E-R-K-I, N as in Nancy, S as in Sam.
Ms. Perkins, how are you currently employed?
I am currently employed with the Department of Forensics in Washington, D.C. as a forensics evidence analyst.
And I guess down in Palm Beach County, we have crime scene investigators. Is that part of your duties and responsibilities?
Previously, yes. I currently took a new position.
Okay. How long have you been in your current position?
I've been in my current position for 4 months.
Okay. What are your current duties and responsibilities?
My current duties and responsibilities are to analyze and recover any type of potential evidence regarding latent print or DNA from evidence submitted to our crime lab.
And how were you previously employed?
Previously, I was employed at both the Department of Forensic Science in D.C. and Montgomery County Police Department as a forensic scientist specialist.
Go ahead, ma'am.
My duties there included the documentation, collection, and preservation of evidence on crime scenes, anything from the homicides, rapes, robberies, burglaries, and incidents that had a trend. It was my duty to photograph, document, collect, in the process of either drafts or sketches, and then place them into protective packaging via paper or plastic into our evidence system and later to be stored in our evidence facilities.
Okay. And the Montgomery County Police Department, is that the same agency that the gentleman who was just here, Officer McMullen, works for, or worked for at the time?
Yes, it is.
Just can you briefly outline your educational background as relevant to your job?
I have a master's degree in forensic science that I received from National University of La Jolla, California in 2006. I also have an undergrad in biopsychology from the University of Baltimore County in Baltimore, Maryland.
Now, Ms. Perkins, did there come a time where you were asked to perform your duties as in crime scene processing to assist an agency out of county, specifically Palm Beach County, Florida?
Yes, I was.
All right. And what were you asked to do?
I was asked to process a vehicle that had been recovered in our community in Montgomery County, I believe Silver Spring, at our vehicle processing facility located in Gaithersburg, Maryland.
And how did you when you say process, what do you mean? What did you do?
At that time, it was my responsibility to again collect, document, and preserve any potential evidence on that vehicle. My duties included, or for this instance, I photographed the vehicle, overall external and internal photography, interior photography. Then I was requested to possibly collect and discover or determine if any potential or possible blood was located anywhere exteriorly or interiorly on that vehicle.
Did you have an outline of the, basic facts surrounding the incident at that time, or were you simply asked to collect any evidence that you saw?
The basic outline I had was that suspect fled from Florida, the vehicle was recovered in Montgomery County, and that it was my duties to find any potential evidence. In this instance, the possibility of blood was the heightened incident or the current factor that they were looking for most potential.
Okay. I believe without objection, at this time the state will move into evidence states 106 through 127.
No objection to anything that this witness did.
106 through 127, and then
All right, so let's look at the vehicle that you processed. I'm going to start in reverse. States 127. Is this the vehicle that you processed? This what appears to be a white Toyota vehicle?
Yes.
And again, where did you go to process this vehicle?
This vehicle is located in our vehicle processing facility. Is at the basement level of our headquarters police station at 100 Edison Park Drive.
Okay. And states 106. Did you thoroughly document the outside of the vehicle?
Yes, it is.
And states 107, does that include the license plate area so that the vehicle could be properly identified?
Yes.
Entering into the front driver's side of the vehicle, did you photograph and attempt to locate any potential blood type evidence on this vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Where did you observe or believe you observed any blood-like stain or blood-like substance that you attempted to preserve via swabs?
If I could consult my notes just to be very specific.
Sure, absolutely.
I took, again, initial pictures on the exterior and the interior of the vehicle door. I observed possible blood on the interior armrest of the front door and the front door itself near the window.
Okay. And did you document that again with photographs and little numbered placards?
Yes, I did.
Looking at states 110. Do we see that here in states 110?
Yes.
All right, so we'll start with states 111 and stanchion 1. Very difficult to see in this photograph, but did you see an area that you potentially thought that there could be a blood-like stain there?
Yes, I did.
How did you preserve that area?
I took the initial photograph and then I took a sterile swab using distilled sterile water. I moistened the swab and then collected that small area of possible blood.
Did you have anything to do with processing of the blood or comparing it to a DNA standard or anything like that?
No, I did not.
Did you simply package the swabs and then send them on to the Palm Beach County authorities?
I packaged the swabs into their container and then into a paper envelope and released the custody to the officer. I think it was Oliver on scene. He collected everything and it was released to his custody that same day.
Okay. States 112. Can you see here what is the partial placard number 2 and what appears to be the armrest?
Yes.
And again, did you see some suspected area there that indicated to you that there might be blood or blood-like stain?
Yes.
Did you collect that with sterile cotton swabs and package the evidence?
Yes, I did.
What other areas on the inside of the vehicle did you note possible blood, and did you collect during your processing of the vehicle?
During the processing of the vehicle, I applied a chemical known as Blue Star that reacts to possible blood, the hemoglobin and copper in blood. After I applied that, it luminesces in a dark environment. Those areas that luminesce, I took swabs of, and I noticed that type of luminescence on the steering wheel as well as the seat, the passenger side seat, and then I noticed later a possible blood on the gear shift.
The Blue Star, based on your knowledge and experience and training, knowledge of that product, does that damage the DNA in any way?
It does not.
Okay. So, looking at states 116, did you see an area that is observable on the gear shift that you thought might be indicative of a blood-like stain, and specifically an area in this area of the gear shift?
Yes.
Did you attempt to collect that and preserve it the same way as you articulated previously with the part of the door and the armrest?
Yes, I did.
States 118, did you also notice some area of possible stain, I think you said on the passenger seat?
Yes, on the passenger seat as well. And then in this picture, photograph C, that is also in my notes, that is the emergency brake and the center console where I also collected possible blood.
That's actually my next photograph here that I lost. This states 115. And again, some area here near the gear shift, or the emergency brake, some area there.
Yes.
Again, did you swab that the same way you told us about processing the rest of the areas?
Yes, I did.
And just back to the passenger seat itself. Close-up photograph of the edge of the seat showing some red discoloration.
Yes.
Did you take cuttings of this, or did you swab it?
This I took a cutting of.
Okay, why take a cutting rather than a swab?
With fabric, we find that the fabric itself will absorb the item or the substance we're looking for that won't be picked up by a swab. You're just going to smear it or put it further into the fabric. Therefore, it's better to just cut the fabric and the area surrounding it so you have a control that can be tested later on.
Looking in the back of the vehicle, were there items that you noticed in the rear of the vehicle?
Yes.
Did you notice any suitcases, any kind of bags, anything like that?
Other than what's observed in the picture now.
And with respect to those front passenger seat, was there an item, a paper-like item that was in the pocket part of the passenger side door?
Yes, there was.
All right. Did you photograph that item first as it appeared?
Yes, I did.
Did you subsequently turn that item over to see what it was?
Yes,
Did you photograph the item after you turned it over?
I did.
And is this what appeared in that door?
Yes.
No objection. At this time, the state will move into evidence states 128A through I.
128A through I.
Correct.
Unanimous with I.
And ma'am, list these items are in evidence, but I want to just have you look at them. Ask a couple of questions about them. you recognize the outer packaging of these items?
I do, yes.
Does that appear to be a bag that was utilized by the Montgomery County, Maryland Police Department, the Evidence Processing Unit?
Yes.
And does each of these bags contain a description of where the swab came from?
Yes, they do.
And what's actually contained in these bags? Are these the swabs that you took?
Yes, they are.
Does it bear your name?
Yes, they do.
And does it show who you turned the item of evidence over to?
Yes.
Right. Now, I just want to ask you about this one particular. This is number, for the court purposes, number A. I believe it's your number SW09.
Yes.
All right. What swabs are contained in this bag?
In this particular bag envelope is Court's Exhibit A is swab SW09, the possible blood collected from the gear shift.
And that would be the gear in the parking brake area that we saw in the photograph?
Yes.
So I want to ask you about fishing. This is, for court's exhibit purposes, a letter I. I believe this is your SW1.
Yes.
All right. Again, does it contain your name, who you turned it over to, and then a description of where it came from?
Yes, it does.
And where was this swab taken from? This is Court's Exhibit I.
Court's Exhibit I, this is my swab that I collected. It was taken from the driver's front interior door frame near the upper window.
And then, did you ever at any time meet Melanie Eam?
No.
Come into contact with Melanie Eam?
No.
Take blood or samples from Melanie Eam?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
So you're now a federal employee?
No, I'm a city employee.
So you're
That's why I'm still working.
So you're getting paid?
Yes.
Okay. Based upon everything you saw and everything you did, are you able to tell me whether that blood was transferred from a stabber or a person who was standing next to a stabber?
I can tell you that there was possible blood in the vehicle. That's all.
Thank you.
Redirect.
No redirect, Judge.
Can you step down?
Do you solemnly swear that the evidence is about to be able to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Eam, would you please introduce yourself to the jurors and spell your last name for the record?
Hello. My name is Koy Eam, and I'm Melanie father.
And so Miss Melanie Eam, that's in the courtroom, sitting at the table there, she's your daughter.
Yes, correct.
And back in November of 2016, did she live with you and your wife?
Yes,
At the time, did she drive a white Toyota Corolla?
that's correct.
And I'm showing you pictures, State's photograph 107 and 106. Was that Melanie's vehicle?
Yes, that's correct.
Was her phone number at the time 561-517-3237?
Yes,
And was she in a relationship with an individual named James Berry?
yes, she did.
Was James Berry her boyfriend?
Yes,
Would she often go and stay at James's house?
yes, back and forth, yes.
I want to ask you about November 16th, 2016. That night, before 11 o'clock p.m., was Melanie Eam home?
Yes, he was. Yes, he did.
Did you and your wife go on a walk?
Correct, I did.
When you came home from the walk, was Melanie home?
No, she was.
At that point, after you walk, do you take a shower?
Yes, correct, I did take a shower.
And during the shower, do you hear a pounding on the wall or the door?
Yes, I believe so. I believe there's some sounds.
When you got out of the shower, was Melanie inside the house?
I don't see Melanie inside the house.
Did you see a white vehicle outside?
Yes, I believe I see a white vehicle.
And was it driving away, driving fast away?
Correct, yes.
That night, did Melanie Eam ever come home?
No, she was coming.
At some point, did your wife leave to go to James Berry's house?
Yes, she did.
Did the police, did a police officer, a couple deputies, come to the house to speak with you and your wife?
Yes, yes.
Did you tell the police that you were concerned for your daughter?
Yes, I did.
Did you also tell the police that you had relatives in Maryland?
Yes, I believe I did, so, yeah.
And your daughter, I know you talked about her relationship with James Berry. Did your daughter like to play video games?
She played, yes, she did.
And would she play video games on her phone,
I don't know about that, but I believe she did that, yes.
but also on the computer?
Yes.
Yeah. '78.
Your Honor, may I first go?
Yes.
Now, these photos in 77 and 78, was that your daughter's phone?
Yes, I believe so.
So what, the pink phone that we see in State 77, that was your daughter, Miss Eam's phone?
Correct.
I have no further questions of Mr. Eam.
Cross-examination.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Was Melanie and James breaking up and making up an ongoing thing?
Yes, a few times, yeah.
Thank you.
Several times, yes.
Nothing, sir.
Redirect.
Just one question. In regards to when they would break up, would James always break up with Melanie?
Yes. One time she did and one time she did, so it's back and forth. Yeah.
I have no further questions.
You may step down, please. Thank you.
Judge, may he now remain in the courtroom?
Yes.
Any objection?
Okay.
Okay, you may. I'm sure we're going to break just a little bit early for lunch. We usually break around noon time, but for schedule purposes, we'll break now. I'll give an hour and 15 minutes for lunch. Be back at 1 o'clock. You can leave your notepads here. They'll be guarded while you're gone. Definitely take it out into the hallway. Remind you to not discuss the case amongst yourselves or anyone else. Do not get research. Do not listen to or read counsel as well. We'll see you back in an hour and 15 minutes.
No, sir.
Recess until 1:00. Yes, the clerk needs to get the evidence.
Yes, I'm sorry.